Freedom Council is nothing without all of you. How do we go about getting people held criminally responsible for their acts? The military is still at risk. Election interference, the medicalization of childhood. These drug dealers like Pfizer and Moderna, we can seize their property. We develop our litigation through conferences like this. It's going to come through communications. It's going to come through conversations. And Freedom Council is that conversation.
For information, visit freedomcouncil.org.
I knew as early as February 2020 that I needed to do something.
I recognized that there was a systematic problem and that this was not about hydroxychloroquine, it was something larger.
Fear shut the world down, and people made a lot of money at it as they were killing us.
I was asked to speak at a freedom rally that was set up to discredit my reputation.
Whoever orchestrated this must not have the safety of this nation in mind.
Medicine and politics should be separated. These doctors were handcuffed.
The American public has awakened. We have a new civil rights movement to restore our rights, and we're going to hold them accountable.
It is a natural progression of a man of God or woman of character to see injustice, to seek it out, and then to act upon it.
Do you hear me? We will never lock down again. This is the hill we die on.
Don't miss New American Heroes with attorney Warner Mendenhall and John Davidson, Mondays on BrokenTruth.tv.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage.
And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
With Broken Truth, I am John Davidson, and today, joining me is my lovely and talented co-host, Warner Mendenhall. Hey, Warner.
Hey, how are you? Good afternoon.
Good to see you again. And today we have somebody who we kind of covered her story at the beginning, Katie Pasitney from Universal Ostrich Farms in Canada. You probably heard a lot about what she went through over the past, year and a half. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thanks for having me. Definitely always good to be back. Wish it was under better circumstances, but
don't we all?
Yeah.
So just to update the viewers, Katie had an ostrich farm in Canada, and essentially some of the animals started getting sick. She did a test on 2 of the deceased animals, and it came back positive for bird flu.
The CFIA did 2 tests, and they did 2 PCR tests on 2 of the deceased. Yeah.
And ultimately, the CFIA, which is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which is their equivalent of the FDA, decided to cull the animals, even though they had all recovered. And there was an ongoing fight for 314 days.
Yeah, I think it was ended up being 314, but by the time they left, because they didn't leave until almost the end of or middle of November. So it went from December 2024, the fight, to November 2025. Yeah.
And the way it ended was the most brutal possible way. Firing squad.
Yeah.
And you can look online, Rebel News. That's right. They covered this. Was it Drea?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of footage on there. I think if you just put in Ostrich Farm Canada, there's a shooting. Yeah. I mean, it was a day that shook the world, I think. Makes me sad. Yeah.
Tell us how many ostriches they killed.
They say that they killed 314. There was no way that there was 314 in that field laying there. We don't know where the other ostriches went. It is our speculation. When they were operating on our land, they were working at about 2:30 to 4:30 in the morning behind the pens, and they were working. So it just didn't make sense to us because maintain custody, they were supposed to feed, water the animals, and give them veterinarian care if they needed it. But instead, they manipulated their whole environment, pushed them out of the pens, limited them water, limited them food, and they were working in the middle of the night. And that didn't make sense. So we think that they took a bunch of our hens because they know the science that we had, and that's what put the target on our back. And we see that side of the property like a crime scene, because that $200,000 that they spent on straw bales for a kill pen lays in our field, knocked over, full of blood, and shell casings, unspent rounds are being found in that hay. And we have found in the back syringes. And so we're trying to get the liquid inside the syringes tested, because they were not just waiting to kill them. They were studying them. It's our belief.
And then the ostriches had recovered from their illness, correct?
Yeah, so there was more than half of our farm that never had a symptom. They were all healthy. And then there was some that died, but there were ostriches that had been on our farm from 2020 after. All of the ostriches we figured out through the whole process from 2020 prior already had antibodies in their memory cells. So they had been naturally immunized or vaccinated by migratory birds at some point 2020 prior, and they had a firewall, so they weren't getting sick. And so the ones that there was some that died, some that got sick and then recovered. And again, we have to remember that any of the ostriches that they shot on November 6th and the morning of the 7th, not one of them had ever been tested.
I thought you said they did a PCR test.
They did two PCR tests on 2 deceased. So none of them.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
A year earlier, almost.
A year earlier. Yeah. And that's what we pleaded for and begged. And we did have the Trump administration, just with the collaboration of the FDA and NIH, saying they would test them. They said, if you guys don't want to test them, we'll test them, because we do see this as an opportunity to learn from avian influenza, which is not just affecting Canada, it's affecting everybody around the world. So there was a real opportunity here to use our farm as a living laboratory and figure out how these animals were doing just fine. But I mean, we all know, and Canadian Food Inspection Agency wants to say that antibodies don't really exist in ostriches. You have to be pretty, I don't know, be like grade school to not believe that. How do we survive antibodies? How do animals then in herds survive? They have herd immunity. They are exposed to environmental challenges every day, and they overcome them just like we do. But it doesn't mean we kill our whole family.
Yeah, and there's no risk of a bird that survived bird flu to giving other birds bird flu once they've survived and recovered, correct?
That's right. And they wanted to say that the avian influenza lives in the soil, that it lives in the water, that they were a risk to migratory birds and other animals coming in and out of their pens. But they're flightless. Ostriches were flightless. We were 135 kilometers away from any major city. They posed no risk by the geographical location, by their species. They treated them like poultry. They are not poultry. They are ratites. So they are misclassified.
They're what? I'm sorry. I'm not clear.
They're a ratite. So rheas, emus, and ostriches are in a ratite family. So they're not poultry. And so they're misclassified in the Canadian Food Inspection Agency policies all on their own. So we were fighting for that. It became very clear fast that we were never going to win, that this was to do with our science, but we tried. We tried everything we could to keep them alive and fight for just testing them. We said, just test them. They struck all of our expert witness reports from the judicial review and in the courts. They wouldn't hear any of our evidence. They wouldn't look at it. We were bringing to them, we had the proof that we were half a high pathogenic virus and a half a low pathogenic, which actually made our ostriches even less of a risk. So, and at that point, it's actually not even a reportable disease. But again, Canadian Food Inspection Agency would not have anything to do with it. They just would not hear from us. They came in with their theatrical display of punishment, and they brought war. They waged a war on our family. There's no easier way to say it than that.
This was so frustrating because if you're concerned about infectious disease, the last thing you want to do is aerosolize it with high capacity rounds.
Well, and think about it this way too. For some reason, so the minute they shot them all over our field, and then they just scooped them up and put them in these garbage disposal bins with a plastic liner inside. They just threw a plastic tarp. And the disposal company wasn't even certified to handle biosecurity or biohazardous waste. They left, and they've never looked back. So all of a sudden, I guess if you just kill them, it magically isn't in the soil anymore. It's magically not in the water anymore. It's not their blood. It's not in the hay bales anymore. And they've never looked back. They took what they wanted. They got what they needed, and they never looked back.
Now, Katie, there's been some developments after this that you've dealt with. There was a $10,000 fine you were supposed to pay.
Yeah, we had two $10,000 fines. One was for not reporting a reportable disease, which was, we have the proof in the call log. We did phone our vets, but avian influenza was not on our radar at all. So we were doing our due diligence as an expert, as a farmer. We lost that one, so that one stayed. But we had a second one, and it had to do with how they served us our quarantine documents. So proper service means that they have to hand deliver the quarantine documents to you, because that allows them to assess the risk, to go over the quarantine measures and see if it's, if you're able to comply. Because then they see the property, they see the environment, and they see what's possible and what's not possible. They did not do that. They emailed us our quarantine documents. So between February 6th and February 26th, we were found to be improperly served. And those parliamentary safeguards are in place for farmers and people who are going to be put under quarantine, because quarantines carry such a significant consequences for a farmer or somebody being put under quarantine. So we did win that one. They tried to fight that. They couldn't come out. Canadian Food Inspection Agency couldn't serve us because they couldn't get our CMP. Well, the tribunal judge said, but you could find hundreds of our CMP to kill them. Then they tried to say that they couldn't come out because we had protesters. The tribunal judge found that to be not, that she dismissed that one. They tried to say it had to do with weather. She dismissed that one. So it was a really big win for us, because you have to ask yourself, the day that they did bring our quarantine documents to our farm, it was on February 26th. That was their last visit to our farm, believe it or not. From February 26th to September 22nd, supposedly we had the most virulent threat of avian influenza in Canada, but they didn't do any on-site visits. And when they gave us our papers, they were in a baggie, folded up, and they just handed us a baggie and said, here you go. Here's your paperwork. Again, never went through it with us, never went through the quarantine measures, the risk, our compliance, or ability to comply, nothing. So the one could question still, have we ever been properly served? And if we weren't properly served, all of this happened under a non-legal quarantine.
So where is the legal battle now, and who is your attorney on this?
So we are using Shane Dugas out of Vernon, British Columbia, and the Justice Center of the Constitutional Freedoms, the JCCF, said that they would take on the constitutional law portion. But it's been slow going. It really has been, because we do have a request for compensation, but they did tell us outright that if we didn't comply, that we were not going to get compensated. So that's been with them now for about 2 to 3 months, the request for compensation. So we're just waiting for them to come back with their answer on compensation, and then we were going to go forward with a suit. But I mean, there are so many tentacles and to this whole thing, because we have warrants to search that we really believe were actually found obtained not legally. We have big question there. We have big question even about my mom and I's arrests. We were arrested feeding our animals and baited to the back of the farm. There is big question on our Charter of Rights, the abuse of RCMP and our land rights. On all of our quarantine documents too, it's become, I don't know how we missed it, or maybe we found it in the beginning. It's been such a long year. All of our quarantine documents are actually list the location of the animals at the wrong address.
Oh, jeez.
So we feel that this should be an administrative law technicality. And if that is the case too, everything that they did and all of the force that they executed on our farm should be illegal.
I agree. I mean, I'm looking at it through the American lens, but I can tell you this.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a couple of Canadian lawyers in our group, Freedom Council. We would love to invite him to join the group and discuss farm and food and family issues. If any of them is interested, I'd love to grow our Canadian contingent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a global issue because you cannot make food less expensive by killing off our farmers. Unless, it's all, but we do know that there's a control issue, and he who controls the food controls the people. And so we're going down the road of lab-grown meat controlled by the government. We will eat what they give us, and we will not see cows roaming in the field in 5-10 years. And you'll never get a chicken egg from your neighbor. And it's a very slippery slope, and it's scary for everybody.
Now, Katie, you were saying that, did I see this? Someone actually did run tests posthumously of the animals?
Yeah, so we had a supporter, and people were allowed to help us with chores. They just needed to get a permit. And so Farrell had been doing chores with us for a long time. He was a long-time supporter through this whole thing. And we didn't know he took the test, actually, because he said he just wanted to keep us, legally not tied up to that. But he obviously, it came back with the result that we all knew. That rooster was negative.
So the reason why you couldn't test was it a $250,000 fine if you ran a test on the animals?
Yeah, so if we tested, it's in their policy under penalties for their quarantine policies, and it's a 6 months in jail and or $200,000 fine per animal if you test or treat them. So you can imagine too, if you stop treatment on all your animals, what are they hiding if we could actually treat our animals and maybe they got better? But instead, if you don't treat your animals also, it's going to look like a war zone wherever you go, because farmers aren't allowed to touch or treat their animals. So you're not just dealing with this heartbreak, but now you're being threatened, basically, that now these animals that have been yours for decades, and it's your lineage, it's your genetics, it's your everything, you can't help them at their worst moments of their life, even though you probably know that you might have a treatment for them. For us, we used HOCl water at a solution in the water.
What is HOCl? I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
Hydrochloric. It's I'm sorry, I don't know the exact name. HOCl. I'd have to search it up. I'll send it to you, John.
Okay.
And post it after, or if you.
It's a chlorine, so there's a sort of a bleach aspect to it.
It is. And so we just treated the ponds that the ducks had been in, or puddles, and we treated the water of the ostriches at a solution of 5% to the volume of water. So 5% HOCl water to the volume of water. And the minute we started treating our farm with that, we had no more deaths. everybody go.
It's hypochlorous acid.
Yeah, I just looked it up too. I was trying to get that
Thank you.
looked up.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But yes, so as soon as we treated our farm with that, all of our animals that had any symptoms recovered.
How did you come across that treatment, by the way?
People were phoning us with every kind of treatment you could think of. And they just were so kind and giving us their remedies and what they think could work. And there was a gentleman who makes this near Kelowna, British Columbia, and he was giving us 5-gallon pails at a time, 3 or 4 5-gallon pails of it. And sure enough, lo and behold, I mean, it worked wonderfully. And again, you think that this agency should have been really interested in that, because if we could mitigate the viral threat of avian influenza and start to support and protect our supply chain management and our trading partners, this should have been on the radar as a big win. Not even we found something that would work for avian influenza, but we had antibodies that were not at the beginning stages to be used. We were at the usable stages of antibody research that we could start to help other animals and farms. So again, it was just shut down. And what we're seeing, I think, right now is that this is really, really important time to take the opportunity and reflect on the procedural errors, the safeguards, how human disease response is carried out, and how that animal health and respecting the law have to coexist.
Well, you were definitely more respectful than I think most of us could have been in that situation.
Yeah, there was moments I didn't act my best, that's for sure.
But you know, the silver lining of this was you had a tremendous amount of support from places that you just didn't even expect it. Like, one of the rental car companies refused to release vehicles to RCMP. Is that correct?
Yeah, they actually asked for their rental vehicles back. So it put them in a real predicament because they had them all loaded up with all of their materials for killing. And they asked for all the rental, Clearway truck rentals, asked for all of their vehicles back. Then there was places that, for like a Firmco in Vernon, British Columbia, Canadian Food Inspection Agency was calling around for a bobcat to dig a hole and looking for tarps for the bins. And they kept getting shut down, it just kept buying us more and more time. And even the RCMP were saying, this is really, really hard. You guys have made it really hard to do anything, which, I don't know why we were going to make it easier, but yeah, we were really grateful for a lot of support that way as well.
Gosh, I have a couple of thoughts too. One is, what is this doing to the people who are killing these beautiful animals? I just mentally, what's going on in their heads? You're slaughtering healthy animals.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight into that? Did you see any impact on the people who are doing it?
For sure. So there was the RCMP had a chaplain come out a couple times because this was traumatic. These officers were standing there getting to see these big, beautiful prehistoric animals that had names, and they were goofy and they danced in the sun and they were in their nests and they were happy. And they had to know that they were aiding the Canadian Food Inspection Agency in their death. So the chaplain came out a couple times for the RCMP, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Honestly, I think that they are built to be a killing machine. Yeah. I didn't see not an ounce of empathy or sympathy or compassion from Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And then if you look at it, they brought in those unmarked marksmen, gunsmen to do this dirty job wherever they're from. And we're still trying to find out where they hired them from. And I think they were just avid hunters. I think they literally were, I think they were hunters.
Yeah, but even a hunter, I know a lot of hunters. I'm in Ohio. There's hunters everywhere. Yeah. Honestly, the hunters I know are very respectful. They're killing a deer for meat that they use 100% of that deer. They're not leaving. They're not trying to bury it. And there,
Yeah, you're
you know, I mean, I find hunters not necessarily, even though I'm not a hunter myself, you know, I don't find the hunters, it doesn't bother me in a sense like this does.
No, for sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. So, I mean, I don't know where they found these guys,
Yeah.
but
These are
you have to
assassins,
be.
not hunters. They're assassins.
They were assassins. I like that word a lot better. Yeah. I appreciate
Unfortunately,
that.
in this world, there seems to be no limit to the number of jackboots that you can get for any despicable cause.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
But I do want to call out some of the heroes in this. Viva Frey.
Yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
huge supporter. I mean, he came out so hard, calling out all the politicians that
He
did
did.
not want to get involved. I think my biggest disappointment was in Pierre Polivier, how
Yeah.
he just refused to engage on the topic.
Yeah, not a word. It became a real political taboo subject with the leadership. But even though I said this isn't a right issue and it wasn't a left issue and it wasn't an up issue or a down issue, it was a neutral issue. This is something that's affecting Canadians all across our country. It's going to have long-lasting effects on us, and it's going to catch up to us in about 3 to 5 years when we just keep killing everything. We have no genetic biodiversity, or genetics are going to be gone. There's no strength in the immune system in the animals because the mums, pass down all their antibodies down to their young. But if we're just starting from ground zero on every farm constantly, we are going to see the mutation in viruses, and viral threats are going to increase, and it's not going to be pretty. And then obviously food sustainability, we're going to have no food security. But what I've learned is there's two sides to this coin, and one side makes sense. So we should be able to fix the solution, and you stop killing and you come up with a better way. But the other side of the coin is that 2030 agenda. They want a depopulation, and they are doing a movement around the world. And so as much as we think it should make sense and we can solve the problem, they're never going to let us solve the problem because it's been set out.
I think bird flu is a moneymaker for a lot of industries.
100%.
It,
Look at Canada. Canada bought 500,000 doses of the H5N1 vaccinations like a year and a half ago or a year ago already. So they're just sitting on them. Yeah, for the people that are most vulnerable.
But not only just for the vaccines, but bird flu provides an excuse to cull millions of chickens across the continent.
And which we've done here, by the way.
Yeah, we have. And that what does that do? That if you're a hedge fund, you look for that and you invest in a way that you think a stock is going to crash once the bird flu has been identified and the culls begin, because when there's less chickens to sell and prices go up. So it's a money maker for the universities, because then they can get all this H151 whatever research money, and you can always tell because the usual cast of characters came out on this one, the same ones that were parroting the COVID narratives. I think Angela Rasmussen was one who really showed her horns.
Yeah, she was not a very talented woman. I'll tell you that right now. She should not have her job.
So we've got these people that come out and they parrot the same narratives, but you really can't get around the fact that you're trying to control a disease by killing domesticated animals versus the wild animals that are supposedly spreading it. I think it was a flock of ducks that landed in a pond next to your farm.
It was
Where's the duck?
hidden, and
what the duck, man?
That's what we said. We said to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency when they visited. I said, so you're going to kill all of our flightless animals that hold the key and opportunity to innovative science to help mitigate the problem, what are you doing with the ducks that are still sitting in the pen? And she said, that's wildlife. She's like, what are you going to do? Kill all the wildlife in the world? That's crazy. And I said, but killing all of our farm animals is going to save the world? Like, it just, nothing in this made sense. And, then we did get our blood work tested, and our blood came back positive for H5N1 antibodies.
Your blood.
And yeah, and we're safe, we're healthy, we're whatever. But so then they were like, well, doesn't this kind of mean then that it can jump to humans? And I said, you know what? H5N1 has been around for years. I bet you if you swam in a lake or you've walked barefoot on the sand where the ducks and geese poop, if you've eaten a picnic in a park on the ground, I bet you if you went and got your antibodies tested, I bet you carry H5N1 antibodies if you spend any time outside.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. And one of the things that I've thought about sometimes is really in modern history, what pandemics have succeeded actually when they've just let run wild. I mean, I was born in 1962, 1968. I think it's around then there was a flu that went around. There was a flu in the mid 70s. These are supposedly pandemic level. Nobody paid much attention to them. And guess what? We got through it fine. And then we look at even COVID, and when that came, I think, from what I've seen, a lot of the injury was iatrogenic injury, which is caused by the treatment itself. So ventilators in the United States killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
Remdesivir killed hundreds of thousands of people. And they've used pandemic as this big fear thing, kind of like climate change. I don't know where you are on that, but, they just want to trigger fear to get the population to react and to gain control over the population. But the reality is, with medicines and treatments that we know right now, it's very unlikely that we're going to have any kind of big pandemic. Even if you go back to the Spanish flu pandemic, there's a whole issue around aspirin. They were giving toxic levels of aspirin to these people, and it would kill them. So that was a new drug at the time, and it was killing people at the time. Same thing here. We were using remdesivir and the ventilators, and it was killing people. And then we've had a trial on this, obviously, but it's just I think that I think it's false to say that our population is at real risk for a pandemic. I think that's simply false. I know that's probably not, it's a very much minority view, but I think it's false. We have lots of ways to treat it, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, chlorine dioxide, and the one that you came up with. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, and we're starting to be able to use these non-pharma owned generic products to fix all kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And benzonol is another big one I've read on. When my dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer a couple of years ago, and put him on a treatment of fenbenzonol and
you may not know this. I was diagnosed stage 4 in December.
Okay, and his numbers almost, they're right down, and everything had shrunk. He's there, and the doctor was shocked. He's like, "How did you do this?" And my mom was like, "Well, I've been giving him fenbenzonol."
I think it's critical to use those things to protect ourselves.
We have to. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But that fear narrative that you're talking about too, right? That it's a fear-mongering narrative that keeps control over so much of the population. Yeah. And that's what they did here. They fear-mongered the public that we were such a viral threat, to where the public just really was brainwashed that our animals had to die. And with no evidence, no proof, but the government just said so. And the emergencies, that the whole declaring an emergency is a very slippery slope. And I think each country should pay attention to that as well, because when you declare an emergency, you have unelected officials that are declaring the emergency. Then they are the ones that authorizing assessing the situation, and they're executing the force. So there's the emergencies thing, the fear mongering. It's a recipe for disaster, honestly.
It is. Anytime the government is coming and saying that they're here to help you and they're here for your safety, I think you need to run. But I don't think most people are there yet, unfortunately.
I'm still running.
You're still running.
I'm not running.
And then the idea of emergency powers, our Constitution was written during an emergency, by the way.
Okay.
Our Declaration of Independence was written during the Revolutionary War. These people put everything on the line in an emergency to defend what they felt were their natural God-given rights. And that's that we need to remember those legacies that the Constitution and your charter rights should not be disappearing because of some kind of emergency declaration. That's exactly what they're there for.
Yeah. And in Canada, we got to look at it too. We have all of these ministers and presidents for these agencies that are just being cabinet shuffled with no experience. So Paul McKinnon came from the Border Securities in Canada. Then they moved him down. He designed the Emergencies Act for the trucker convoy, gave that to Carney. Carney pushed that on Trudeau. And then they pulled Paul McKinnon out of there and then threw him into Canadian Food Inspection Agency as the president. And then his first line of action in office was to remove the complaint center. So they only handle all their own internal investigations. They are a self-governing body. They do their own internal audits. They, when we had some animal abuse, obviously, before the November 6th, Canadian Food Inspection Agency was neglecting our ostriches, and there was a wounded one that they weren't treating. And we went to the RCMP and we said, can you investigate this? And they said, yeah, just give us all your evidence and everything, and we'll give it to them to investigate. And we said, who are you giving it to? And they said, to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And we're like, so you're going to give all of our evidence to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, who we're telling you is abusing the animals. And because they do all of their own internal investigations. So they're not transparent. They, look at them. And they are not accountable. They have no accountability. So they just get to run wild and give themselves bonuses every year and never look back.
I have a question that may seem a little funny, but I actually would like to know about some of the animals and what their names were and what their personalities were like.
So we had Peter was my mom's protector. He would follow her everywhere and make all the other ones kind of leave her alone. We had Q-Tip because he was one of the tallest, but he had a big white head, and it was just really fuzzy, so we called him Q-Tip. Big Bear, he was always pacing the fence and just wanted to be kind of the center of attention. Regretta, you would regret she pecked you because you would always have a big bruise or a blood blister. We had Annabelle, and Tiny, and she was one of our oldest. And Colin, he was half blind, but he just loved life. We have family. They trusted humans.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what, devastated us the most was that they couldn't come up with a better way. And this theatrical display of punishment that you're watching, those hazmat suits, they were on sometimes, they weren't on sometimes. They were camped on the hottest part of a quarantine zone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sorry. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
I'm just watching that.
Yeah.
It was the hardest. It's definitely the hardest night of our life. Yeah. And there will be never getting over that.
Yeah.
There's just living with it.
Well,
it's a new.
I just.
Yeah, and this will feel good.
You're obviously you just loved these animals, and I mean I think that just really honors them. So
For sure, and we're not going to stop fighting for justice for the blood that was spilled.
Yeah.
It's going to come, and those ostriches, we have to remember, like, they were a long-living animal, and we had them for 35 years. A lot of them in their 20s.
Yeah.
This was not a turnaround chicken in 6 months that we were eating on our plates.
Yeah.
These ones that we all had at our farm were the breeders, our breeder stock, and I watched them grow up, and they watched me grow up, and that was my mom. That was my mom's identity. They destroyed. They took my mom's identity on November 6th and 7th, and they didn't look back. So there'll be some coming.
I do want to call out Drea Humphrey for her coverage at Rebel News, because she was so powerful in that. She did such an amazing job. She was there for weeks, right? Off and on.
Yeah, she is part of the family now. Honestly, she was there with her mom. She was there with her son camping, and boots on the ground, always showing people exactly what was happening.
Yeah, and this is Drea. So.
Oh yeah. And there's a problem with the news in Canada in the sense that it's government run and government controlled. I don't know that Americans really understand quite what that does and how that frames everything. Maybe you could enlighten us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So our media, mainstream media, is owned by the government, and it's very controlled. What you see on our 5 o'clock news is not the truth. That's one thing I learned through this is I would watch back the interview that I did for news, and they always cut out the most important parts. They create a different narrative, and they, sorry, I catch the birds drinking. Oh, that was really sad right there, because they were restricting them water. They took all of their waters away, and they were super thirsty, and they were looking for anything to drink. Yes, but the mainstream media, so people like Drea Humphrey that are boots on the ground, independent journalists like John, podcasts, people that are bringing the real story to Canadians, it's few and far between. It's really hard to find people that Rebel News is an amazing independent news platform. And I didn't even know that they existed up to this last year. And I could never go back and watch mainstream media or news ever again. It's very, very controlled here.
For the broader population, do you think any of this is breaking through? Are they understanding that there's a real problem here?
Yes, I do. I believe that the situation, I kept saying the world is watching, and the world watched. And it really did start to wake up another level of people, I think. And it was because it was something that we could all agree on, that these animals didn't need to die. Why can't we test them? Or they didn't need to die without not testing them. Why can't we test them? And it was something we could all agree on. Why can't we test them, especially after 300 days? So the broader public, I think, really, we saw people from all different belief systems come to our farm or reach out to us. And that was the one thing that they said was, we just don't understand. And I said, well, we don't either. And that's what we're fighting for, is to understand, because you have to have evidence to be able to kill. You should not be able to go into someone's farm based off suspicion, which is in the policy of Canadian Food Inspection Agency. They can come based off a suspicion and kill every animal that you own and take over. So
if we had a robust, investigative system in this country or your country or this continent or this planet, I would want to see the financial records of the people that made the decisions to do this. I'd want to look before and wait a little while, because sometimes you don't get the kickback until after the dust is settled. I'd want to I want to look at investments that these people have. I'd want to look at who's controlling the politicians and their narratives. Why didn't Pierre speak out? He had a lot of pressure to do so.
Yeah.
Did he poll it and discover that, the majority of Canadians are woke and into the vaccine thing, so it won't work? Did he not want to take an unpopular opinion?
And in the beginning, in March, so when we had a 5.5-hour Zoom call with Canadian Food Inspection Agency in January, and they led us on to believe that they were very interested in the science. And so we gave them all of our material and our data and our results and everything that we could do and what we were working on, and how we could create diagnostic test kits with our antibodies that would be 98.9% effective. And in March, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency allotted a grant to Lafont Medical in Quebec to create antibody diagnostic test kits. So, I mean, there are so many things that happened this last year that just all point to that they took our science. They didn't want us. We were going to be competition for big pharma. We were set to be destroyed long before this happened. Did you know that the landfill that was initially going to take our ostriches, and we won that battle because the landfill came back with unanimous vote and said, we're not going to take the animals unless they're tested, because we're not going to bury healthy animals. Do you know that landfill was contacted in November if they would take our ostriches? Our ostriches never got sick until December.
Oh my God.
What?
November, before they were sick, the landfill had already been contacted to take the ostriches. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who contacted them?
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency.
What particular person?
Not sure.
Well, there's a
We don't
thread
know.
to follow up on.
Oh my, that's not a thread, buddy. That's a rope.
We know on one of their site visits, they outright asked us, where do you store your COVID-19 antibodies? Like, it's so many people, it's been such a long road, and you know that you were fighting for their lives, but it was so hard to know that they were going to have to die to create change. So I just believe one day it's all going to come out. There's going to be a whistleblower. Somebody's going to speak out, and something is going to come to the surface, and we will see justice, and we are definitely not giving up. It's a long road ahead, and we're tired, but it's going to be really worth it in the end.
Well, we have to get awareness. I mean, I represent whistleblowers, by the way. I have the Pfizer whistleblower along with Bob Barnes, by the way.
Oh, yay.
I work with
whistleblowers.
Brooke Jackson and Bob Barnes and our other team, Jeremy Friedman, and we have a good team on that case. But we've been fighting now. Brooke, I should say, not we. Brooke has been fighting for 6 years, and trying to stop. She initially said, tried to stop this, but whistleblowers are mistreated in our country. I will tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So what I really want to see, and I think one of the important things with the whistleblowers is they can bring awareness and help change the public, the court of public opinion, which I think is critical here. And I don't know, I don't think it's changed enough yet, but that's where the whistleblower can really do some damage, is changing the public opinion on these issues. And it's not so much that you're going to get justice in court, but you gotta keep fighting and let the public know, and let the public come to its own realization that something's really wrong here. And I feel like, our country, we have a lot of people that have awakened to the problem, but it's still not enough. And I hate to say it, but I look at Canada and I'm like, what happened to the strong, independent Canadians that lie?
Right.
I just, is that, do you think that's changing, by the way? I mean, do you think Canadians are starting to get a sense that the government is somewhat malicious?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I do think that more and more Canadians are starting to see that we're in a world of hurt. And if we don't start to say no, we're going to lose everything. We will lose all of our freedoms, 15-minute cities, the control, the population, our food, and we're just caught in a hamster wheel, and they keep us, as long as they keep us busy and we can't afford our food and we can't afford our rent and we can't afford our bills, and you're running your kids to daycare that you can't afford, and then you got to get back. You don't see the bills that they're passing, like Bill C9 right now. And it's a very serious bill that is going to they say that it's going to protect people from hate speech, but it actually gives them the full authority to go into your account or anything, and your freedom of speech is actually going to get affected. So they can shut off your service provider with one click. They can shut off Drea Humphrey, and any independent journalism would be at risk. So they just keep us busy while they pass the bills behind the Parliament doors. And we Canadians don't know any better, but I think Canadians are definitely starting to wise up and look into more of where we're going and what they can do to be on the positive side.
Well, I think the trucker situation in Canada really exposed a tremendous risk to freedom in your country. When they took the bank records and shut down the financials for these protesters, but also I think they started to threaten to go after their kids, and that's what I think really clinched it, because when you start trying to remove children from homes because the parents are protesting, it's beyond fighting dirty. So I don't know about this bill, so I'm glad you're bringing this up. Do you know who the sponsor is?
I actually did read about that bill. It's astounding, and it's contrary, obviously, to everything that we know here with the First Amendment. And one of the things that I've been concerned about, in Canada, England, Australia, whatever, the rights are not as clear as they are here. The First Amendment that we have here is so unique. There is an absolute nature to the right here in our country. There is not in your country, unfortunately. It is conditional.
Is it still? Are they considered part of the crown still? Is that why?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
We're still constitutional.
Don't even get started talking about the UK right now.
Well, 1982 was when the Charter of, I think that's right, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Have I got that right? I'm sorry, a little bit ignorant here. But I mean, and I think people had really high hopes for that in Canada. And I've seen some people talk about it. I have a book that I read about it, about the Canadian Charter rights, and need to go refresh, obviously. But, I get the idea that government is sort of blessing you with these rights instead of these rights are reserved to the people. That's what happened here. So it's a different prism with which the rights are implemented and defended.
Yeah, no, it's people are always shocked that we are part of the constitutional monarchy and we answer to the king. And so, why do we even have elections? Like, I just started, the more I've learned this year, there's unelected governing bodies that are outside of Canada that are running our country. So I don't even understand why we have a prime minister.
So Katie, I always felt from the first moment I met you a year ago that you were going to be a weapon regardless of the outcome. Now, the weapons show up in different forms, fortunately for people like me. I think that you have a role in advocacy or even politics in your future. What do you think about that?
I don't want to be.
That's a great answer for a politician.
Yeah, because then I would be limited to my speech and my freedom to be able to be who I am, to be an advocate. But I've always been an animal advocate. And I said, you can wage war man versus man, and we're seeing it play out. Nobody wins. But when you wage war with man versus animal, the animal always somehow wins. And so I'm going to continue to be an advocate for my family, for our country, and to create change along the way. And hopefully just bring awareness to a really big problem that is not just in our country, but it's a global issue, and try to preserve what we have left of our genetics, our lineage, our hardworking farmers. I don't know what that looks like. I'm just trying to get through this one, and we'll see what happens after, but we're not giving up. Yeah.
Well, is there any...
I've been blessed with people like you and meeting you. It's I've met so many awesome people along the way.
Is there any way or anything that you need help with right now?
Right now, you know what? I say prayers. Send us prayers. Our faith has been really rooted deep. It always has been, but this year, I believe in the power of prayer. There's a lot of hate online. There's a lot of lies online that people are trying to attack my family, me, defamation of character, real attacks. And that is, we are in a spiritual war, and it's good versus evil right now. So prayers, honestly, if I could ask for everybody to pray and continue to follow our story. And that is what is most important right now.
So we haven't confirmed you yet, but I do want to bring up that Thrive 26 in Myrtle Beach, California. I'm sorry, South Carolina, not California. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is going to be May 22nd and 23rd. And we've invited you to come and speak. If you can make it, I would love to see you there again. You were great at Thrive 25. Warner, you're coming to Thrive 26, just in case you didn't know.
I'm not sure. What's the date on that again, John?
May 22nd and 23rd. So it's going to be Memorial Day weekend.
Katie, I'm in the middle of cancer. No, I've got cancer treatment, and I'm very not mobile. I'm stuck kind of at home most of the time.
Well,
that's the problem. Maybe
I'm going to plan on you being there.
Maybe the pen pen will get me better by then.
Hey, there you go.
No, it's quite a struggle that I'm going through personally with my health.
Well, I will add you to my prayers.
Well, you're on my prayer list too.
Yeah. But it sounds like last year was absolutely phenomenal. There was such amazing people with such incredible stories. And I'm really glad that
this year our focus is going to be more on solutions. How to get through this psycho world relatively unscathed. Yeah. So they'll find a little bit more on, unexplored health treatments like what you guys are talking about, and also homeschool. We've got the founders from Classical Conversations that are going to be there, and a few other interesting things we're haven't yet announced, but you can find out about it if you're listening at truththrive.com. You can get your tickets now, and I'm kind of excited. So I hope to see you both there.
Well, I hope to be there, John. I'm not making any promises right now, though.
That sounds like a firm yes to me. All right. Well, with that in mind, Katie, thank you so much for coming out. And it's been too long, and I'm glad to finally get you back.
What a pleasure, Katie. And what a pleasure hearing about the individual ostriches, too, and your mom. And I really appreciate this.
All right, guys.
Well, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Have a great day, and I'm going to run a little ad on the way out. Bye, guys.
I believe in the Constitution. I believe that one case, the right case, can change the world. If you believe this too, Freedom Council is for you. Pursuing a major case can be overwhelming, but we provide a community of practice so that you have the resources available to support your case. My name is Warner Mendenhall, and we are Freedom Council. Join Freedom Council today.